Hello queens and goddesses, and welcome back to Aromantic gives you unsolicited dating advice a la Reddit. So today we're gonna be on the r/dating advice subreddit. I don't think I've done this one before, so I thought I'd take it to the root source. Now, disclaimer, this is just me giving my opinions, and although I am always right because, well, I am perfection incarnate, just remember that we might have differing opinions, and if you do, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. All right, let's get started. First story, should I continue dating her? Cryptic. A few weeks ago, I went on an amazing date with this girl I met off of Hinge. We really vibed together and agreed to go on a second date after she gets back from her Italy vacation. I stopped using Hinge since I met her, but checked it briefly today to find that she has a completely new stack of pics. After seeing that, my interest in her dropped about 100%. The thought of her exploring other options, especially on vacation, makes me think that I didn't mean shit to her. Also, the type of girl that uses dating apps on vacation isn't the type of girl I think I'd want to take seriously. Let me take a step back to say I know it's only been one date, and she has every right to explore her other options. On the other hand, her profile changing is a huge red flag, along with her frequent bar hopping and partying with friends. Given what I've said, would you continue to date this girl? Boy, you crazy? I mean, OP says it in the post that she owes him nothing. They've only been on one date, and she is allowed to keep Hinge. They're not exclusive. They have not had that conversation. So there's literally like zero problem here, other than the fact that OP is uncomfortable that she isn't all in with OP. If I were in her shoes, I would also still have Hinge. I would still be updating my photos, especially if you're in Italy. You know how many hot girl photos this girl is taking in Italy? She for sure is like, oh my god, I look so good. Let me update my Hinge because I look so good in these photos. I don't think there's any ill intent behind this. I mean, I don't know these people, but I've definitely done that before. I have plenty of friends that, they go on a fun little vacation and they update all their dating profiles with those photos because they just look better. And the general rule of dating profiles is you want it to be your most recent photos so people aren't shocked when they see you in person. I definitely don't look like all my old photos. So I think OP's being kind of goofy. And I understand if it's you really felt like you connected with someone that you would want them to feel that too. But just because she still has her Hinge doesn't mean she doesn't necessarily not feel that way. It's just you have to be realistic, and you've been on literally one date. There is an edit. Oh my god. Why does everyone insist on driving so loudly in this city? So edit 1. Reading all the comments has been productive, and I'd like to share my takeaways. 1. I was too invested in this girl. Her changing her profile was the reality check I didn't know I needed. 2. Dating multiple at once is the expectation nowadays. People who see out of one option at a time do exist, but are relatively rare. 3. If I want to be the type to see out one... The grammar is atrocious. 3. If I want to be the type to see out one option at a time and expect that from who I'm dating, it needs to be communicated as soon as possible. Facts. 4. I am not wrong for being less interested in her, knowing she at least is talking to other guys. And just to clarify, she's done nothing wrong and I'm not mad at her anymore. If anything, I just feel foolish now for thinking she was more invested in me. Period. I think this is a wonderful situation where Reddit has opened the eyes of OP. I think the comments are saying it pretty well. Someone said after one date, you are not exclusive. I personally wouldn't be bothered by that after one date, especially if you weren't intimate, but go with your gut. It's rarely wrong. Someone said, I'm going to be blunt. I think your ego is getting in your way. She put up new pics and now you're fault finding as a way to protect your ego. And then they go on to say, yes, you can feel this way, but you can also take a breath and recognize your reaction to this is internal and it's coming from a place of ego. Dating is extra hard when you approach the experience from this place. You could push away someone really wonderful if you allow your ego to steer the ship. I think the commenters are really hitting the nail in the coffin perfectly here. Is that a saying? I don't even know. This is definitely a matter of putting this grandiose responsibility on someone you barely know. She owes him nothing. She literally owes him nothing. It was one date. And it is ridiculous of him to put this expectation on her when they haven't even had this conversation. It's okay, so what? You really like this person. Have you told them that? Do they know that you feel this way? If you don't communicate that to people, they owe you nothing. And even if you do communicate that to someone, she still doesn't really owe you anything. She doesn't know you. If she wants to go live her hot Italian life, like, let her go live her hot Italy life. Who cares? And I am happy to see that OP really took the comments to heart and didn't get defensive and really, like, had some self-reflection and was like, oh, you know what? Like, she's totally valid for that. I'm also valid in my feelings for not wanting to be with someone that is okay with dating a lot of people at once, because that is also valid of OP. I think he said in the post that she seems to be like a partier. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good party. I love to get turned up once in a while, but I am not a partier. Like, I think there's a difference from, like, being able to do those things, like, occasionally versus, like, I do this every night, this is my life. If that's, like, not the vibe that he's looking for, then he is totally valid for not wanting to continue talking to her. I don't know, it's just this, the way he writes it, he puts such, like, this, like, grandiose responsibility on her. He's like, we vibed, and I don't understand, like, why she's, like, looking at other options. It's like, well, for women on dating apps, like, you are bombarded by so many likes and matches every day that you kind of, like, need to, like, talk to multiple people at once. I know when I was on dating apps, like, I would talk to multiple people at once because it's like so many of them are flops and creeps, and it's like you kind of just, like, have to be talking to, like, 20 people at the same time in hopes that, like, you can find someone who isn't unhinged. And I didn't even find my partner on a dating app, which is, like, the ironic part. This is a great comment. It's understandable to feel conflicted. On one hand, it's normal for someone to explore their options early on, especially just after one date. However, if finding her, updating her profile, and lifestyle choices are bothering you now, it might indicate a deeper mismatch in values and expectations. If you're looking for someone more serious and this behavior feels like a red flag, it might be best to trust your instincts. However, if you're still curious, you should go on a second date and see if the concerns persist. And I think that is the most, like, demure and eloquently put response. If those are not the qualities and expectations you have and, like, want in a relationship, you are totally valid for stepping back and being like, I don't think you're the person for me. You're just not a match. And I feel like a lot of people fall into this pit of, like, oh, but, like, they're such a cool person and we get along so well and, like, I really like them. But then you have these, like, huge personality differences that it's like, okay, but you're not, like, compatible. Just because you really like someone or you're getting these butterflies or infatuation for this person does not mean they are your person. So I think it's best for OP to just move on with their life and find someone that more vibes with the vibes that they're looking for. All right, next story.
Hey queens and goddesses, I just wanted to give you guys a fair warning that this next section does handle some pretty heavy topics like mental health and essay. So if that's not something you really want to listen to right now, I totally get it. So feel free to skip to the next chapter marker. Do what you gotta do. Stay safe out there. Love you. Mwah.
All right. This story is titled, She's Basically in Love with Me After 4 Dates, ... This should be interesting. So I, male 24, met this girl, 22, off Hinge about a month ago. Everyone's meeting on Hinge, my goodness. And right from the start, it was pretty obvious that she was into me. I liked her a lot too. We hooked up on the first date, and it wasn't planned or anything. She stayed at my place. There weren't any red flags or anything. She was really sweet, and her and I hit it off. She would really hate it whenever I dropped her off at her house. Then she'd text me frequently every day, which was nice. We'd go on dates every Friday night since she lives an hour away and doesn't have a car. We'd FaceTime twice a week. After the second date, she mentioned when I would ask her to be my girlfriend. I said I wasn't sure, as we both should take more time before we jump into a relationship. I'm used to moving slower, so this situation is way different. Last night, she came over again. This was our 4th time together. My friends were gonna come by, and then we'd walk to the bar. This would be her first time meeting my friends. Wow, after 4 dates. Okay. She was somewhat drunk when we were out at the bar. My friends made a couple playful jokes towards her and then she took it really personal and started to get upset and cry when I talked to her about it. I was trying to comfort and reassure her, and it took some time. She stressed how much she wanted my brother and my friends to like her since they're so important to me. I told her not to worry, that they'll be happy if I'm happy, but she was just having a hard time and was really upset. For information, she's mentioned having anxiety and depression and that she's a huge overthinker. Girl, same. We eventually went home and went to bed, but she was still super emotional and crying. She kept saying how she doesn't want to lose me and feels like she's pushing me away. And then she said that she's never felt this way before about someone and that she could really see us being together forever. This really startled me since it was only our 4th time together. I do like her, but it's a bit too much too soon. And I didn't want to disagree with her too harshly because she was acting very anxious and upset. I told her I didn't get why she liked me so much, since I'm just a normal dude. It felt like she was putting me on a pedestal. She was having a meltdown, saying that we'll probably never see each other again and that I'm too good for her. It was very hard to deal with, and she didn't get much sleep that night. Today was better, but she's still saying how she doesn't want me to leave. I'm not sure what to do now. I do like her, but I'm not at her pace. She seems to have some attachment issues, and I'm worried that things will only get worse. She even asked me how she could change herself so that I would still want to date her? Oh no. I worry about breaking it off with her, that she'll be devastated. She doesn't have many friends and has a lot of time on her hands. She's a substitute teacher. She's a sweetheart, but I feel like she's in love with me already and it's caught me off guard. Any advice is appreciated. Okay, this was exactly what I was worried it was gonna be. Okay, I have been OP before. I've never really talked about my dating history like online, but here you go. Here's the rundown. So I'm aromantic, as we all know, but I have been in a couple of relationships and I have definitely done my fair share of dating and trying to figure out what it is I want out of a partner, if I wanted a partner even at all. And my longest running relationship was about literally a couple weeks short of a year. And when I dated this person, it was very similar to this where, for me it was like I just graduated high school and he was a freshman in college, about to be a sophomore, and neither one of us had really been in a serious, we had both dated, but we hadn't been in serious relationships at that point. And so for me, it was okay, we're gonna have fun this summer and, I'm gonna explore myself and explore dating. And I kind of thought that's where it was gonna end because I was moving out of town to go to college and he was more than likely gonna have to move back home to a whole nother state because he couldn't afford to stay in school anymore. But then it was a week or two into dating this guy, he just dumped on me that he was in love with me and that he wanted to marry me one day, just lots of love bombing, right? And at the time I was 18 and I didn't really, I was barely 18. I had been 18 for maybe 4 or 5 months at this point. I'm still a baby, but especially then I was a fucking baby. I didn't know any better. And this was before I knew my sexuality and my romantic identity. I still had so much self-discovering to do. So I remember feeling this, I felt so guilty because I was I don't feel that way. And this is going so fast. And I found myself just kind of going along with it because I was well, this person loves me so much and they seem like a great person. We've hung out a couple of times and they're really kind to me. They say and do all the right things. So this is what I should want, right? This is what we should do, right? And then over the next year, I found myself in this relationship where I just felt so unsatisfied all the time and I felt so guilty because here was this person that claimed they loved me so much and that I was the best thing that ever happened to them and that I was too good for them and that they've never felt that way with anyone, and I wasn't at the same pace that they were at and I probably was never going to be. And that was a really awful feeling to have. And in retrospect, now that I'm, older and I can look back at that time in my life with a lot of reflection and growth, I recognize that in that moment I should have just been we shouldn't do this because our level of where we're at is so different from each other and the things we want. He wanted to get married and he never said he didn't or did want kids, but the way he would talk sounded very nuclear, a very nuclear styled household. And I've always known that I don't want kids. I from a very young age recognized that I don't really dream of getting married. I'm not opposed to marriage, but it's not something that I yearn for or really am looking to have. If it happens, it happens, but it's like not a big deal for me. And so it was just like a lot of like internal core values that were just like so mismatched. And reading this, like I relate to this so much. So my advice would just be like, I think it's best to end it, because you can already see like the sort of guilt he's feeling. If not guilt, then like a sense of responsibility like for her feelings. And you should never ever feel like that in a relationship. You should never feel responsible for someone's mental health, because you're not. And if anyone, whether that's family, friends, or a partner, makes you feel that way, I really challenge you to like reevaluate that relationship. You are not responsible for anyone's mental health. You are responsible for like how you treat people. You should definitely try to be mindful of the things you say. Like there's definitely a way to handle this, but unfortunately, because she is so insecure and saying these very troubling things, it's moments like this where you have to recognize it's like, okay, like it's probably best to end it. Like clearly she needs to like learn to love herself before she can enter a relationship. Let's go to the comments. All right, the first comment. Time to tell on myself. I went through a celibate period for a few years following some sexual trauma, and when I started to have sex again, I became balls to the walls obsessed with the guy. I knew it was too much, but I refused to help myself, and I spent months effectively acting just like she is and feeling depressed over it, all that I didn't want to get out of bed. And now I think about that, and my primary feeling is embarrassment, because I know that I was fully unstable and didn't need to be anywhere near any dudes. Personally, I think that most individuals, including those in relationships currently, aren't presently mature enough to be dating. This experience made it clear for me. It's the same case for this young lady you're dating. I'm not gonna sit here and act like she's being an asshole for being mentally unstable, but I do hope that you can see what she is doing is legit creepy and not very sweet. I can acknowledge that for myself as well, which is how I feel comfortable describing a stranger similar in age and insecurity to me in this manner. If I went on 4 dates with a guy and he was crying over me because he saw us ending up together, I would most likely be legitimately scared. I fear that you will be getting different feedback due to her age and gender, so let me tell you to run, even if no one else will, for both of your sakes. She can't see it now, but she will absolutely be sad, but she needs to be alone. Talking won't help. She's just gonna pretend she gets it, all while feeling the exact same way and changing nothing. This is an issue that goes far beyond whether you're ready to date or not. It's in her heart and mind and about how she views herself. She doesn't feel like a worthy person without your validation, and she needs to get past that before she can be a good partner and believe in a good partner. My heart goes out to you both. So beautifully put. First, to this commenter, so sorry that you went through that trauma. I think that it's exactly what this commenter said. She's not an asshole. Like, no one, and I know this isn't like the Am I the Asshole Reddit thread, but I just want to make it clear that no one here is a bad person. But the behavior she is exhibiting is extremely off-putting and extremely concerning. And I'll take it back to like that relationship I was in. You know, in retrospect, that partner I had that I thought was great to me and loving and, you know, was just so good, and like they were so sweet, like how could I ever break their heart? In retrospect, they treated me very poorly. And especially like y'all are 22 and 24, like, I mean, I'm only 23, and like there's definitely like so many things I'm still learning about myself and so many like traumas that I'm actively trying to like untangle myself from and like learn that, you know, like that stuff happened, but like that's not who I am anymore and blah, 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 blah. So she, like, unfortunately, this girl needs to be alone for a while, and it is not up to OP to like psychoanalyze her. I sincerely hope that this girl that OP is writing about gets the support and the therapy that she so desperately needs. Everyone should be in therapy. That's my number one rule. We should all be therapized. Next one, a lot shorter. Told me being single for a year is a red flag. On multiple occasions, women have told me it's weird that I'm still single, considering I was not single the majority of my adult life. I thought it would be weirder if I jumped right into a relationship. Is it really off-putting for a guy to be single for a little over a year if he's dated someone for almost a decade? No. And I think anyone who thinks that is a red flag. And you know what's so funny? The first comment is no, and anyone who thinks that is a red flag themselves, a walking red flag. Another one commented, as a woman, I agree. It's a green flag energy to allow yourself time after a long relationship to try to jump into another. Yeah, and especially if it was a 10-year relationship, what is the rule? It's like if you dated someone for 10 years, you split that by half, 5 years, that's the amount of time you should take to be single. And I think that number like varies person to person. I feel like that's a fair rule, you know? I mean, I'm an extreme case where like I dated that guy for almost a year, and then I was single for 4 years. But that was more of just because I had recognized in myself that I did not know myself as a person. I mean, I was like 18, 19 when we dated, and so it was like the beginning of my 20s, and I was like, this should really just be the time that I just like don't enter a committed relationship if I can help it. I still dated, like I still went on dates with people, but I was very like open with the people I would go on dates with, and I'm like, I'm not looking for anything, like I'm more so doing this just to like for the sake of experience and like getting to know people. And it's like if I meet someone that's like, wow, like I could see myself entering something more serious with them, then sure, but it's like that wasn't really my goal. And I think in the 4 years that I was single, I maybe went on like a handful of dates. I think there was like one point where I didn't go on a date for like 2 years straight. And then when I moved to Greenville, North Carolina, what was it, like 2 years ago? That was like the first time I'd gone on a date was when I moved, because I was like, I'm in a new city, I should like go on a couple dates. I think I went on like 2 dates. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I would be more concerned if he was like he said he was in an 8-year relationship. Yeah, if he was in an 8-year relationship and then immediately started dating, like immediately. And that's the crazy thing. He says he was in an 8-year relationship a year ago. And then 6 months ago was when he started dating. So he waited 6 months to start dating. Hello, what? Just because you start dating does not mean you're gonna find someone. Like, fun fact about me, when I was a kid, because again, aromantic, I have like little to zero, pretty much zero interest in dating. And when I was growing up, this is how I realized, after watching JaidenAnimation's video about like being aromantic and asexual, I kind of always knew, but like that's when it like clicked in my head, because she talked about in the video how it's like, oh, you know, like I would look around at my school and like everyone was so ugly, no one was attractive, like they were the problem, not me. I've never related to a sentiment more in my life, because when I was a kid, you know, like people have like their playground relationships, right? It's like this is my boyfriend, we're in kindergarten, we hold hands, and then we'll break up a week later and like be like, ew, you have cuties, don't touch me, ah. My earliest memories as a kid were like sitting with like the other girls in my class being like, who do you like? Who do you want to hold hands with? And I remember like picking out the most like generically attractive one, like the one I knew that like all the girls had a crush on. I was like, that guy, I would hold his hand. And then for like my entire childhood, people would make fun of me for having a crush on him, and I would be so annoyed because like I don't even like him, like I don't think he's cute, like he's ugly. And then when I got to like middle school and high school, everyone would always, because I like switched schools in the 7th grade, and it was an all-girl school, so everyone would always be like, who do you have a crush on? Like, who do you, like, do you have a boyfriend? Blah, 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 blah. And I remember at one point, I got so fed up. I was so annoyed. I lied. I started lying to people, and I started telling people, my parents said I couldn't date until I could drive myself, so, like, I'm not allowed to date till I'm 16. Because in my head, I was like, I'm not gonna be 16 for so long, like, I can just, no one's gonna ask. And by the time I'm 16, no one's gonna care, right? Wrong. Because literally, like, the day I turned 16, everyone, like, a freaking pack of like vultures came down on me and was like, who do you have a crush on? You can tell us now. You're allowed to date. Who's gonna be your first boyfriend? And I ended up like sort of pursuing like my guy best friend, not because I liked him, but because everyone was pressuring me to do it. And so it's like, no, like leave me alone. I don't want to. So this post is so funny to me. I'm like, I think, yeah, no, OP, you're fine. The people that are telling you that when you waited 6 months after, I would argue you didn't wait long enough, if I'm being perfectly frank. Like, this is a good comment. Listen, no matter how long anyone is single, it doesn't matter to anyone but the person who's single. Nobody's beeswax. I think that's very well put. Someone commented, I've been single for 20 years. I'm a walking red flag. And then someone said, are you 20? And then they said, ha, I wish. Just checking, you see all these people going, I've been single for 14 years, don't know if I'll ever find love. And then they mention they're 14. That shit don't count. There's nothing wrong with being single. I think people that like actively choose to like be by themselves, not because like they can't find anyone, just because they're like, that's kind of how I am as a person, where it's like, I'm in a relationship right now, but it's like, if I wasn't dating my partner, I literally would not be dating. I just like truly have zero interest in it. But I don't know. I think this is so funny to me. This is This is probably like the most perfect story I could have pulled for myself, if I'm being totally honest. I must apologize for my transgressions because my camera battery died in the middle of my rant. I think that is a wonderful note to end this on. Very wholesome comparatively. Anyways, let me know down below if you agree, disagree, if you think I missed something about any of my takes on these stories. I'm open to conversations. And again, although I am always right and the complete image of perfection, you know, it doesn't mean that we're gonna agree on everything. And I might change my mind, which would still be correct because I'm always right. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you're aromantic, drop a little green heart. And to all my asexual homies out there, drop a purple heart. I love you guys just as much. Yeah, but I love you all the most. And I'm gonna go and be a couch potato. All right, love you all the most. Mwah. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.